So here's a fun question. What is the best Toy Story movie? Maybe it's the original. I mean, come on, it's a classic. Maybe it's Toy Story 3. I don't know why it says the breakout comedy of the summer, because the thing I like about this movie is that it's much darker than the other Toy Stories, so I don't know about the breakout comedy of the summer. Or maybe if you're a toddler, you think that the best one is Toy Story 4. I mean, no offense, I don't think this movie's that bad, and I do at the same time. I should do a video on this movie and really express my thoughts about it, because I love this movie and I hate it at the same time. But yeah, it's not the best. In my opinion, the best Toy Story has to be Toy Story 2. And here's why. Toy Story 2 truly has everything. It has amazing new characters. The characters in the last film, well, most of them, are better in this one than the last one. And it's just funny. Now, when talking about the new characters in this film, there's no better place to start than with Jessie. Jessie is the third most iconic Toy Story character, only beaten by Woody and Buzz, which is shocking because she debuted in the second film. Not the first, but the second, and she's the third most recognizable character in the franchise, which is insane. Jessie's whole character arc in this movie is that she was once owned by a child, but that child grew older and abandoned her and left her in a box, a donation box, and that's where her whole fear of claustrophobia started. So, yeah, that's where her fear started. And then she was found in that donation box by Al, and now she's gonna be in a museum in Japan. The prospector manipulated her into believing that's what should happen to her, because she's already been to rock bottom. Her kid, Emily, abandoned her, and then Al found her and she doesn't know what to do. So the prospector's saying, hey, this museum in Japan, it's great, it's amazing, you know? And that's why she wants to go to the museum so much. But then Woody is there to convince her being owned by a kid is the best thing that could happen to a toy. But who's there to stop them from going back to Andy? Well, Woody's the only one who went back to Andy, but who's there to stop them from going to Andy's house? None other than the most underrated Pixar villain, the Prospector. Now, what makes the Prospector such a good villain? Well, to me, he is the most underrated Pixar villain because he's never been owned by a child. And then he was found by Al, who's going to take him to a museum in Japan. And then, it's a whole collection of, what the Woody's Roundup gains. So that's what the Prospector thought his purpose in life was going to be, to go to the museum in Japan. There was nothing else for him. Although being owned by a child might be a bit cool, and he might be a bit jealous of the choice who were owned by a child. He learned about Jessie's experience with being owned by a child, and then Woody showed up, with a whipped arm. So that grew the Prospector's hatred for children, and being owned by a child was his worst nightmare. So he did anything he could to go to the museum in Japan. First of all, the Prospector used the remote to turn on the TV one night when Woody was trying to get back his arm and sneak out of there. So he stopped Woody, which is because he wants to go to the museum in Japan really badly, and he can only do that with Woody, which is a very interesting dynamic to have, where the villain needs the main hero of the story. He needs to stay with the main hero of the story in order for him to get what he wants, which is very cool. Wow, look at that face. But the best part about the Prospector's character is how he's defeated at the end of the movie, because I've already established that his biggest fear is being owned by a child. That's his worst nightmare. So what happens at the end of the movie when he basically can't do anything up against the heroes of the movie? Well, they put him in a little girl's backpack, and now that little girl named Amy owns him. And that little girl draws on her Barbie doll's face. And so the Prospector has it rough. But that is the perfect way to defeat him. Instead of killing him or anything, they make it so he has to be owned by a child. His worst nightmare becomes a reality. But it's not just the new characters that are amazing in this movie, because the characters in the last film are incredible as well. Now, remember when I said that most of the characters in the first film were better in the second film? There are two exceptions to that. Those characters are Woody and Buzz. I truly believe that those characters are nearly perfect in the first one. And don't get me wrong, their character arcs are amazing in Toy Story 2. More about that in a few seconds. But in Toy Story 1, they were done so well because Woody and Buzz, they have the best of friendships in this movie. I'll probably make a video on this movie too in the future, explaining why Woody and Buzz have the best friendship ever. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, the character arcs in Toy Story 2. In this movie, it feels like Woody and Buzz have swapped roles, because in the first movie, Buzz was the one who believed that he was a real space ranger and not a toy. He believed that he could fly, although the ad said that he couldn't. But when he learned that he was an actual toy, when he learned that he was Andy's toy, he accepted that fact. Like how Woody believed that he was more than just Andy's toy. He believed he was more than just Andy's toy in the second movie. But then he realized how great it is to be owned by a child by watching Buzz and his friends leave and watching the thing play on the TV with "You got a friend" and me. But he was the one saying that I should not be Andy's toy. And I am not. But he accepted the fact that he is Andy's toy, just like how Buzz accepted the fact that he was Andy's toy in the first movie. How did Woody and Buzz switch roles when it comes to, well, how is it on the other side of things? In the first movie, Woody was the one telling Buzz that he is a toy. Like how in the second movie, Buzz was telling Woody that he is a toy. Do I really need to explain anymore? You already know how they swapped roles in the first and second movie. Let's move on to the side characters, shall we? Now, in the first movie, the side characters weren't really that important, you know? They were just kind of there playing cards with, don't get me wrong, them playing with Buzz Lightyear cards was hilarious. But they didn't really do that much in the first movie. But this time around, they were going on an adventure with Buzz to save Woody, who was stolen by Al. And it's really cool to see these characters actually do something, because Rex is the best one out of all of them, which I'll explain later. But the way, they interact with the Blue Belt Buzz, who replaces the normal Buzz, who's trying to tell the Blue Belt Buzz that they're all just toys, and the Blue Belt Buzz doesn't listen, and yeah, but you see, the thing with Blue Belt Buzz acting like Buzz in the first movie, and then Buzz acting like he did in the first movie, in the third movie, and I would say kind of repetitive. But the side characters in the second movie are great, because they actually do something, and they're actually pretty funny, because this whole movie is a laugh riot. But like I said, the best side character in this movie is undoubtedly Rex. Now, what makes Rex such a good character in the second movie? Well, we learn from the very first scene of the movie that Rex has been playing this Buzz Lightyear video game where he just cannot defeat Zorg. Also in the scene, the Star Wars references from the first movie continue, which is really nice to see. But, yeah, apparently Rex just cannot beat Zorg in this Buzz Lightyear video game he's been playing, so that's what his entire life has come to, because in the first movie he was worried about being replaced by another dinosaur toy, so he was worried about Andy getting another dinosaur toy for his birthday or on Christmas, but he overcame that fear by watching what happened with Woody and Buzz, saying that Andy had room in his heart for both of them, so he overcame that fear. Probably, unfortunately off screen, but we see him overcome something in Toy Story 2 on screen, which is incredible. after the first scene we see of him where he's dedicated to beating Zorg, he doesn't really have that much in relation to beating Zorg after that. But when we go to House Toybone with Buzz in the game, he finds a book telling him how to defeat Zorg in the Buzz Lightyear video game he's been playing, and he gets all excited. And then he loses the book, and it's very sad, but it's okay, because the book didn't matter, because we got one of the best scenes of the movie after that. After that, Buzz meets up with the Blue Belt Buzz, and they meet up with Zorg, who is actually a toy now, and we actually get to see Zorg. We saw Zorg in the video game at the beginning, I bet in the first movie, everybody heard the name Zorg and heard all the Star Wars references and just imagined him as Darth Vader. But here we actually get to see a design for Zorg, which kind of looks like Darth Vader. But this scene is amazing, because Zorg is fighting Buzz Lightyear. I think it was the Blue Bell one. I forgot what happened to the other one, because the Buzz Lightyear shenanigans in this movie are unhinged, and I love it. But shockingly, Zorg gets the advantage and is actually going to kill Buzz, like how in the beginning of the movie, Rex played the video game as Buzz and got killed by Zorg, time and time again. The same thing that happened to Rex so many times in the video games was gonna unfold in real life in front of his eyes. So Rex couldn't take it. He turned around because he didn't want to see this, but because he's a dinosaur, his tail hit Zorg and knocked him off the elevator. And there it is. One of the greatest animated movie scenes of all time. Rex defeated Zorg. It is such a satisfying scene. They completed his character arc in the best way they could have. Because if he actually beat Zorg in the video game, it wouldn't really make sense since he said it was physically impossible for him to beat Zorg in the video game. So I'm glad they found a much better way to do that. Which is shocking because this movie was made in less than a year. So I guess this is an accidental masterpiece of sorts. And although Rex is cool in this movie, I want to focus on these core three characters, the main three of this movie, because they all have some really good scenes in this movie. First up, Woody. The scene with Woody that really speaks to me in this movie is the scene where he saves Wheezy, because we get to see his friendship with Andy's dog that was introduced at the end of the last movie. So we're actually going to see Buster in this movie. We actually get to see Buster, and we get to see what he does. But the thing that really speaks to me about the scene is that Woody saves Wheezy, and that's a big deal, because in the last movie, there is no way he would have done that unless Buzz hadn't shown up, because Woody values being Andy's favorite toy more than anything. So, since Buzz showed up and showed him the true meaning of being owned by a child, he risked his own life, to save Wheezy, which definitely shows the growth of his character since the first movie. So this scene really speaks to me. It was originally supposed to be a scene where, Rex is acting like Godzilla, and during the whole play thing, Woody gets knocked out of the window and ends up in the yard cell. But I like this scene more, because this shows the growth of Woody's character, which is definitely something we want to see after the first movie. And it's especially something we want to see since we're at the beginning of the movie when this scene happens. So yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie right here. Not as good as Rex meeting Zorg, but it's close. If there's a scene with Buzz that really speaks to me in this movie, it's the scene where he meets Blue Belt Buzz. Not only is there an immediate reference to when Woody meets Buzz for the first time in the first Toy Story movie, but it's such an interesting dynamic to see Buzz face who he was in the first movie, because now Buzz is basically a completely different character in the second one. He's still pretty smart and, still looks the same, but, this doesn't even look like the Buzz we have now, because he's got a blue belt and stuff, So, but this whole scene where Buzz sees the Alice Toy Barn section that he heard about in the commercial in the first movie, where he actually sees all of these different Buzz toys, it's very cool to finally have him see the actual section, the actual aisle in Alice Toy Barn that he heard about in the first movie. So, this is definitely the scene with Buzz that speaks to me. And of course, the scene with Jessie in this movie that speaks to me is the scene where she shares her story with Woody about what happened with her and her previous kid, Emily. And that's such a good scene because we learn why she wants to go to the museum in Japan. And this basically convinces Woody that they should go to the museum in Japan. Until it doesn't. But it's great to see a scene that knows how to deal with dark backstories for toys about them getting abandoned by their previous owners. Unlike what they did with Duke Boom in Toy Story 4 and just made a joke about him or Jean. Man, I really should do a video on Toy Story 4. But, this scene, it's so good, bro. It's just so good at how, like, emotional it is, really. Because it's very sad, you know? The song playing is sad. It's a good song. Also, did I mention this? The music in this movie is great. You know, the Woody's Roundup theme. Woody's Roundup. Yeah, it's great. But, you know, I know something even better in this movie. Something that this amazing scene with Jessie doesn't have. Humor. First off, the cone scene. Well, this is probably the best scene of the movie because the whole cone scene where Buzz is like, drop! And, you know, it's a small way for them to get across the street. And we see him using a cone to get across the street later in the movie when Zorg is following him. But I love the part where Potato Head's trying to get his shoe out of the gum, but he doesn't know that this thing's about to crush him, so it's great. I feel like if he was a bit more careless when trying to take his shoe out of the gum, it would have made the scene even funnier, but it's already funny as it is. And, of course, the cherry on top was them getting to Alice Toy Barn, and then the camera pans up to show that after Buzz said that they're one step closer to Woody, they're not, because the camera pans up to show Alice, like, hotel or apartment, I don't know, where Woody actually is. But when talking about humor in this movie, you have to talk about the iconic bloopers. Because after the movie ends, the credits roll, and we get even more funny stuff. Because the bloopers are so hilarious. They're just the best. We can thank A Bug's Life for introducing the bloopers, but they're done just as well as they were in A Bug's Life here. The bloopers are so good. I don't know why they don't do them nowadays. If there's, like, a Wish version, like, you know how Wish was, like, supposed to be a celebration of Disney as a whole? But what if there was a version of Wish for Pixar, which celebrates Pixar? Because if that's the case, we have to get the bloopers back in that movie. It would legit be perfect. I would probably cry if that happens. There's only one other movie that will be able to make me cry if it happens. And it's a movie solely focused on Hugh Neutron. But honestly, I could ramble on and on for hours about why I love this movie so much. So just go watch this movie if you haven't already, because if you haven't already, you're not a normal human being. Not saying I'm a human being, I'm a plushie, but this movie, it's so good. I've gave tons of reasons of why I think it's the best Toy Story movie, and if you need any more reasons, just go watch the movie yourself. And if you want me to make a video on Toy Story 4 like I've been saying I might, then ask. Also, thanks for watching. Okay, bye.